I've got a starting question, Tim, because the context, a lot of people who are going to be watching this are people who they haven't been in a game jam before. It'll be their first game jam. They're a little bit intimidated by it. They're not sure what to expect. And what we preach is even if you just have, a little character that jumps, there we go. You made a game, enter it in the game jam, submit it. That's the starting point. You've got to do something basic before you can grow into something, bigger and crazier. So Vimlark, who now I know your real name is Nick, but I shall continue to call you Vimlark, just for consistency's sake. What would you recommend in your years of wisdom and experience seeing and participating in game jams? Where should someone start if they've never been in a game jam before and they're a little bit intimidated by it? What words of wisdom would you have for those folks?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot there. But first off, I think the thing is a lot of people get really hung up on the time, and people get really like worried about like, oh God, I'm not gonna be able to make something in that amount of time or this or that. Really, more game jams should be more thought of as like an exercise. I don't know. I kind of like them as that way, where it's more like I'm here to test out how well I know how to do something or make something that's interesting or fun. But I think too many people think of making a game, and yes, you're making a game, but think of it more like making a demo. I think too many people approach it like you don't want to make a game with 30 levels. That's too long. Because the other thing you got to remember when you're making a jam game, is the output. The output is a lot of people are going to come and play games at the end, leave feedback. That's the thing that I think is the best part about a game jam is everybody, you get the design challenge and it kind of flexes your design skills. I went to art school, so to me, this kind of feels like homework assignments in a way where it's like, you have to do this. Cool. You make your thing and then you post it. Then everybody gets to go play and see how everyone else interpreted the same prompt and then give feedback. And that's kind of the most important part. I think a lot of people want to make a great game jam game, do well, and, win or this or that. But really the big part is you get better from doing game jam games. One, because you get feedback from people on the thing you made, not to mention the fact that you get to go and play and see how other people interpreted the same idea, stuff you would have never thought of. I mean, at this point, I've played hundreds of game jam games, like hundreds, literally. And people always ask, like, where do you come up with ideas? I'm like, I don't need to come up with ideas anymore. I find all of them and then I mash stuff together that I thought were cool, right? Like it really opens up your horizons and broadens your scope. But when you're getting into it, I think the main thing to think about is just try and have fun with it. And the biggest thing is your scope. Scope is the number one problem that kills everybody in a game jam. I suggest planning for half the time. If you have like a 48-hour game jam, try to think of something and scope for something you can make in 24 hours. Because if you succeed, right, which is very rare and probably not going to happen, you succeed in making it in 24 hours, cool. You've now got another 24 hours to add more cool stuff, more polish, more juice, and the biggest one that most people never think about in game jams, playtesting. Have someone playtest beforehand. The number of times I've seen someone, or heard someone say, go right up to the end, or tried to play a game where they got right up to the end, they submitted in the last seconds of the deadline, and there's a bug in the game and it can't be played now. So you just wasted, you just spent all that time for a game that can no longer be played. And it's disheartening. It's really sad. So I suggest try to shoot for something that will take you half of the time. And that helps take into account all of the inevitable things that come up, real life, flaky teammates, this or that, like bugs, things that you don't expect to spend a couple hours or who knows how long working on. That's the biggest one. I think most people get intimidated because they sit down, they try to plan a game for the amount of time they have, and then get completely stressed out when they realize I can't actually make this in that time because everything else took longer than I was expecting.